My opinion is that the modern electronic all-wheel drive system is just a giant hunk of shit, and there's no two ways around it. They're just glorified front-wheel drives that occasionally, if the stars align and God wills it, the back wheels will engage and start going. All right, well,
Give it to it.
let's send it.
Yep.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Camo Convoy Podcast. I'm Nick. That's Aaron. Today, we are diving into what makes the best Overland build. But before we do that, we have some news, both good and bad. We're going to hit some Q&A, a tech tip, and last, we had a contest, and somebody won. So stay tuned for that, because at the end, we are going to crown the champion of the Snow Nuts. Before we get into that, let's catch up with some updates. Aaron, you have a torn apart Tacoma behind you. What's the word?
Well, I've got the motor tore apart down to the block. It's a short block. I still gotta get the pistons out of it. I'll probably go live tomorrow at some point. That's gonna be yesterday by the time this comes out. But I'm hoping it's bare block by the end of tomorrow.
Nice. On my end, nothing new under the sun. If you're wondering why I look more like shit than usual, last week when we pitched you a doubleheader, I was actually at Disney with the kids. It was very fun, but I picked up the Disney crud because kids touch everything, and my kids touch me, and now I think we've had like 15 episodes, and I've been sick for 13 of them. So
Yeah. I think the first 4 you and I were both sick the whole time.
yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm immunocompromised. I don't know. I feel like I've been sick for like a year at this point. But no, Disney was very fun. It feels a hell of a lot less magical to be back because it was sunny and 75 in Florida, and I got home to a foot of snow. So while I like wheeling in the snow, I do not like living and working in it. So a little bit down, but hey, that's that's all right because we have some news.
This is Camo News. Direct from the trail to you.
Santa's coming, and so's Mothman. Guys, by the time you listen to this, you will just be thinking about buying your significant other a Christmas gift. You might put it off for a few more days, but if you haven't looked into Mothman, go ahead and do that. It looks like we have, I think, 13, maybe 14 confirmed going. I don't have any caps on that trip, but if we get upwards around 20, it'll be pretty interesting. We can definitely make it work. So if you're interested in checking that out, hit us up on Facebook or the Discord, and we'll get you the information on that. You've got 3 weeks to get yourself in order for the Mothman trip. Now for some not good news. The Biff, man. This one sucks.
This one sucks bad.
You know, I'm not going to be able to say anything that the news hasn't already said about Greg Biffle passing with his family in a plane crash. But what I can say is give your family a hug and reach out to ones maybe you haven't talked to, because you never know when your time's coming. That one's tough. And, you know, one thing about Greg that a lot of people maybe don't know because he did it so quietly was Greg Biffle was very big into philanthropy. From the hurricane relief that he did with Cleat, and I believe he also had a huge humane charity for animal activism and things like that, and stuff he never broadcast or talked about. I know he helped out with a ton of grassroots racing and stuff like that, so he was a good guy. And that one really sucks.
Yeah, that one sucks, man. You took the words out of my mouth. Just hug your loved ones.
Yep. Definitely. Last bit for news here. So this one's interesting. I actually just threw this one in before we started.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, so I just saw that Toyota revamped the Scion name with an off-road focused turbo hybrid side-by-side. This thing kind of looks like a little car. It's pretty neat, and I'm hoping, just maybe, that this is a step towards us getting cool mini vehicles that do get some street legal rights here after our El Presidente made his remarks a few weeks ago about manufacturing these mini vehicles. So it looks sweet. I'm sure I can't afford a tire for the damn thing, but it looks cool.
Yeah, I think I actually saw this. I don't know, like a month or so back. It was released, maybe SEMA or something, or Japan Auto Show. But anyway, Toyota was saying that they're actually putting a motor and transmission in it that should go 100,000 miles, no problem, which is like a
Yeah,
big deal in the side by side world because they're all like CVT belt stuff that just doesn't survive.
makes so much sense. While I personally am not, you know, a side by side number one fan, I do think it looks pretty cool. And if you haven't seen one, I'll throw a picture up and a link to the article that I saw so you guys can check them out.
Yeah, they look really cool. I can't wait to see one up close.
But that's all for news, guys. Let's hop into the show. Now, before we get rolling, I want to quickly, once again, define overlanding so that the fine folks at Reddit don't grab their pitchforks and come after me in my home. All right. Now, this is our definition that we reference when we talk about overlanding. This is what we are talking about. It may be different for you, but this is what we mean when we say overlanding. So, four-wheeled, vehicle-based backcountry travel with an emphasis on the journey and not necessarily on the obstacles. Now, this doesn't mean that there's no off-roading. Off-roading is often a byproduct of the goal, and that goal is exploration. And I think that's probably the best descriptor I can use for overlanding in a broad sense when we talk about it. It doesn't mean just driving on a dirt road, but it also doesn't mean you're going to an off-road park. The goal there is to explore. So as we're doing that, Aaron, what makes the best overland build?
Man, I think that definitely knowing what the use is going to be and building for that use is very important. Knowing what terrain you're going to be on and how often you're going to use this thing, how you use it. Like, are you going to drive this thing to work or are you just driving around in the woods? Does
Yeah.
it need tags and insurance? Can it be tagged and insured?
Yeah.
Um,
You,
you
you
know,
brought up you brought up such a good point there that I didn't even mention, and that is this thing your daily driver? Because that's a huge
yeah.
point of consideration. If you work, I'm in the Pittsburgh region, and if I drive an hour west, I'm in the city. So, do I want to be driving a vehicle that has a giant Stinger bumper on the front and a high lift jack and spare tire in the back and try to parallel park this thing in the street? Um, those are things that you might want to consider
It's funny
for
you
what's
bring
the
up
best for you.
It's funny you bring up the Stinger bumper because this is my daily, and I can buy this bumper with a massive Stinger, and I chose not to for that exact reason. I didn't want to be dealing with trying to park with this thing hanging up in the air.
Yeah. So when it comes to the best overlander, right, there are a few things that consistently tip the scales that can make a good truck great at overlanding, regardless of what your use cases are. There's also some ways that people go completely off the rails and end up blowing their build into something that is not as good to drive. And ultimately, they might hate driving the thing. When you build an overland vehicle, it is super easy to get lost in the fun part, which is wrenching and mods. I mean, for me, sometimes that's half the fun. I love building stuff. Sometimes I like buying shit just because I'm bored. I have this like thing. I noticed it as a trend. If I go on a trip and I get kind of bored, that is the most likely I am to overspend on some part that I don't really need. That's how the hood louver came into play. I was just bored.
That's funny.
Yeah, and it is. It's easy to just start slapping shit on like Legos because it's fun. But if you're not careful, you can build something that sucks. Um, and if you overshoot that goal and you start building in a different direction, you really do run the risk of building a vehicle that you don't like driving. And I think that's something that I have witnessed a lot of people do.
Yeah. I can say that this truck without the camper is a joy to drive. With the camper, it's kind of become a pain because of the weight. Um, I'm hoping the motor fixes some of that, but like just that one mod ruined my I don't want to say ruined it. It changed my truck in a way that I don't want to say I don't enjoy it as much as I used to, but it's a different type of enjoyment now.
Yeah.
I'm definitely restricted a little more than what I was.
Yeah, one of the this is like a common thing that I see across multiple platforms. The two that stick out for me the most are the Gladiator Sports and the Tacoma TRD Sports, both newer generations. And usually with the sport packages, the gearing is the highest gearing offered. And I see people all the time, they buy the sport package because it looks pretty cool, and then they slap like 35s or 37s on it, and they have like 313 gears or something, and the truck just won't go. So that is definitely one way that you can really make your life miserable driving your vehicle.
Absolutely.
So before we go any further, one thing that I want to do is I want to ask anyone that's listening to go ahead and comment what you think the best overland vehicle is from the factory, or if you have a short build list that you think makes the best overland vehicle. Let us know what that is. And at the end of the show, if that changes, let us know as well. And for anyone that is a professional hater, go ahead and let us know why you think it's a Jeep Cherokee as the worst. I'm kidding. So what does the best even mean? What are we talking about when we say best? What do you think, Aaron?
It's it's the capability. It's having capability from where you're actually going to drive the vehicle. Like I know I did this. My first build was I built for the West Coast, not knowing what the East Coast needed, and I had a really nice square body truck, and I turned it into a tractor. So having capabilities is nice as long as those capabilities are something you can use where you're going to use them. Uh, it's really easy to build the wrong vehicle.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think ultimately you want something that is simple and reliable. I know we've talked about the gadgets before with modes and sensors, and if you think back to the trips that we've taken and issues that we've come across, it's always that stuff, you know. Oh,
Yeah.
my goat mode made my left turn signal stick on, and it's like, dude, I just what happened to just reaching down and putting it in four-wheel drive, you know?
Yep.
So it needs to be reliable. I think it should be simple. I think you should be able to repair the thing. And another thing to consider is you're going to be carrying a bunch of stuff. So while something like a Samurai might be a blast to drive, you can't fit your shit in it. So it's not going to be a great experience for you in an overland context because it's just not designed to carry all of that load. So you need to factor that in as well. And it needs to be affordable for you. What is affordable for one person isn't going to be affordable for the next person. You know, a fifth gen, or I don't even know what generation forerunners are up to now, 7, 8. They've made
I
it
think six.
6.
I think six.
You know, a sixth gen forerunner is a fantastic vehicle. I think they've kept them relatively simple, but out the door, that is not that affordable for the majority of people that are in this hobby that actually go out and do the traveling part of the hobby. So that might not be the best in your case.
I don't even know if they're that simple. I think, don't hold me to this, but I think like the base drivetrain for that is hybrid now.
Ooh, yeah, you know what? I think you're right. I think you're right.
And that
Um,
goes back to the reliability thing and complexity of the vehicle. You know, like there's a whole nother system, batteries, stuff there that are going to complicate things when you're in the middle of the woods with no belt.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know, and you walk through a parking lot and maybe, you know, you go to a truck show or an expo and you'll know it when you see them. You'll come across these builds and you're like, wow. I mean, this thing's got every modification. It's got every add-on, every overland part. and you look at the skid plates and you look at the rock sliders and it doesn't have a single. Oh, never look at that stuff and think like, wow, I have to have all that stuff. If it's fun for you to build that, absolutely, by all means. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you how to spend your money, but don't let Instagram pollute what you think you need versus what you do need. And, we see this with tires and lifts all the time. What's the most common question on any internet forum? What's the biggest tires I can run? And what's the biggest lift I can run before I have to do a drop bracket or long travel? If you're asking those two questions, you probably don't actually know what you're trying to do off road. And we've beat that to death, but that's not
Yep.
something that you need. That's just something that you want. Why? Because it looks pretty cool. And ultimately, you want to be seen and you want to see something that looks like that. We see it with camping accessories, the Scottle. Remember when those were real popular?
I do. The old plow disc with a propane burner under it for like $400.
Yep. Yep. It was like packing up a gazelle tent to cook your breakfast on.
I actually saw one mounted to a rear bumper on like a Jeep, and the thing folded. It looked like a satellite dish. I thought somebody had DirecTV on the back of their SUV, but the thing folded down. It was actually a really clean setup, but Blackstone does all right. So
Yeah. We see people wanting winches, right? And look, if you are doing some real distance traveling out in the middle of nowhere, you're not with anybody, then that might make sense for you. But if you're cruising around Pennsylvania, camping, hitting some forestry roads, doing a lot of sightseeing, exploring, that would not be high on my list, and neither would lockers. You just don't need them. And
yeah,
folks that argue that, I would say go ahead on YouTube and just type in like Singapore or Asia and then add commute through woods because
yeah.
there are a ton of underdeveloped and developing countries where what we consider overland and off-road is just like their daily drive, and they're doing it in a Toyota Tarsal.
Deuce and a half cab over loaded down logs.
Definitely. And all those things that are just things, right, that you may not need are all additional weight and all additional failure points. So just keep that in mind when it comes to building out what your best is. Oh, some things that people need. I think that this is important, Aaron. What do you think the number one here is going to be for needs?
You got to have a goal, and it's got to be a realistic goal. And I don't think that you can really have a goal until you get out there a little bit and experience stuff. Like your original goal should be just going. And at that point, figuring out, okay, now I'm into this. What's the next goal?
Mm-hmm.
This kind of goes back to what Chad was saying when we had him on with All Dogs. The people who do the best builds are the ones who do it in stages, where they go just a little bit and build to their needs, to their goal that they.
Yep, 100%. When I first started the Frontier, the first year, I would say I had really no goal. I didn't know anything about the platform, and I was just throwing darts.
Yeah.
But when I finally decided, like, okay, this is what I want to do, my goal was to build the most durable version of the truck that I could build. I didn't really care about how heavy it was. I certainly did not care about how fast it was. I just wanted it to be able to crawl like a goat and be durable. And up until really the last year, and that's almost 10 years ago now, that's been great for me. But man, I started to develop this itch to pretend that I'm a race car driver. And I think that I've finally settled on the fact that I'm not. And I think I just want my truck to continue lasting forever. And I will build something else that's fast and not try to make, and this kind of rolls into my next point, but do you remember playing Madden as a kid? And then you did like a create a player and you were only given like 30 accolade points, right? You couldn't make somebody 99 speed, 99 agility, 99 tackling, 99 weight. You, you only have so many points that you can distribute into your vehicle. It can't be perfect at everything. Sorry, Land Rover people, but it's not. Um, you, you have to be realistic with what your platform can ultimately be and what your goal is. And it's really easy,
Right.
trust me, because I know I did it. It's really easy to start getting these other ideas and kind of going astray, and you're putting a square peg into a round hole.
Absolutely. It's really easy to get sucked into that.
Yeah. Well, it's fun. It's fun to
It's
modify.
fun.
It's
It's
just
fun.
be careful about it. Fortunately, I didn't do anything stupid like waste money on like race seats and cages and all kinds of goofy
Oh, I'm
shit.
gonna fight you on the race seats because they are really nice, man. Not full blown race like containment seats, but good suspension seat.
Oh, so
I like my Corbeaus or however they're pronounced. What?
I'm actually looking at a set of PRPs. They have like a overlanding off-road style
They're
seat.
the ones I want. They're
Uh,
expensive.
yeah, you know what? They're not crazy though.
They're not crazy for being
I'll-
completely customizable like they are. That
yeah,
they're not out of this world, but they're more than the $600 I spent on mine.
yeah. Now, legit race seats like carbon fit to your seats are that's expensive.
Yeah, that's expensive.
So what else do we need? Quality tires, and not just the biggest possible. It's everyone wants to stuff the biggest tire that'll fit. Um I mean, I
That's
guess
not
it
the move.
depends. Yeah, it's not the move. It depends on your platform, maybe. But really, I just don't think it's going to be the move for you. Um, whatever, I would say the biggest size that allows you to maintain your full articulation without losing a ton of power is probably what you want to look at, not just the biggest shit you can stuff under there.
I think the rule that I go by is 2 sizes. Like, if your vehicle comes with a 29, then you need to be in, like, a 31 to a 33 range. Don't go anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I know like for the Frontier, there's plenty of folks that run 37s. It's just I don't see the utility in it for that vehicle in its stock or even Titan swapped platform. And I know there and I've wheeled with people that have it. It does great. But I don't think that all of the extra weight and mass and cutting is justified by any additional capability. It just looks like a kind of a silly monster truck with cut up fenders.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know that I've come across anything on my 31s or 33s that I've been like, "Man, I really wish I had a set of 35s or 40s right now. It would just make my day better." You know?
Yeah. Yeah,
I've
the
never been.
no, I mean, outside of like, because I hate mud, but outside of like getting into like big, deep, muddy ruts, I can't really think of like any time where, like you said, I wished for bigger and bigger tires.
Yeah, I try to stay out of the muddy ruts. That's
Ugh,
not fun for me. Between the
no.
cleaning and the actually, like, not having control of your vehicle, it's just not a good time.
Yep, I'm with you on that one. Next up is suspension, and that suspension being tuned for your weight. Now, in some cases, an OEM suspension might be completely fine, especially if you have a full size truck. There's a pretty good chance, unless you've really built this thing out, that your OEM suspension is going to be okay. It might not be perfect. You might not be hucking this thing down gravel roads, but for general trailing with whatever gear you have with you, it's probably going to be okay.
It's a good compromise between highway and trail.
Yeah. Now for us mid-sized guys, and I have a Frontier, so especially the Frontier and the rear of the truck, you will need to upgrade leaf springs and suspension. So, this gets into the weeds a little bit, but if you have access to corner weights and you can actually see what your truck weighs built out, I would suggest doing that so that when you go to buy suspension, you buy the right stuff. Now, this gets into the weeds again too, but if you have the ability to go to somebody like an AccuTune or a shock company that will customize a manufactured shock for you, it's going to be a really big, really noticeable improvement. I have not done that, but that will probably be the next thing that I do when it comes to suspension, is actually submitting my corner weights to get a shock built specific for my truck.
Yeah, I was really, really excited with what Chad said about his shocks that are coming. Uh,
Yes.
that's that's pretty much top of my list. Like I'm wanting to do that for that reason. It's going to make a big difference to my truck. That's probably my biggest issue right now is I'm all over the place, and it'll clean up a lot of things.
Yeah. One thing I did want to mention, if you are mostly stock, when you're aired down, your OEM suspension is probably going to feel way better than the majority of the aftermarket suspension that you're going to buy. Um,
Absolutely.
it I don't like to give engineers a lot of credit, but there were a lot of smart people that went into designing that suspension to last for like 100,000 miles under that vehicle for your grandmother driving it to not bitch about noise and vibration. So it's actually pretty decent most of the time. And especially if you air down, you'll find that it's a pretty good system. So if you don't need aftermarket suspension, um, hang around with OEM until you outgrow it. And I think that you'll be happy. Something that I see people do all the time that just is like one of my pet peeves. And I bitch about this all the time, but they have a truck. It's mostly stock. They go overlanding. They're like, all right, I'm going to upgrade my suspension. And then they go buy stock sized Bilstein 5100s. So you took away a purpose built tuned shock for that vehicle and replaced it with a universal part number that has crazy digressive valving that's going to ride like shit just because it says Bilstein and it's silver and blue.
I think a lot of that comes from the shock industry not really they don't really explain what this stuff is doing very well in their advertisements.
Yeah.
And a lot of these dealers, shock dealers, are just pushing brands. You're going out overlanding. This is the shock you need here, without really any consideration as to what your setup, use, or goals are.
Yep. Definitely. Yeah. Next one for needs, proper cooling and gearing. So if you don't have a crazy overland build, you didn't go big tires, you just skip this one. But if you added some big old tires and now you have a big old heavy rig with big old heavy tires, probably want to think about re-gearing if you care about the longevity of that vehicle. And you might even need to look into cooling as well. Um, I don't see this being much of a problem in the mid-size trucks, or at least I'm not familiar with any that really have cooling issues. But if you get into like the full size, especially, I have a GMT 800. um, it's like the preamble to the Bible to those guys to put another transmission cooler on those trucks for the 480s. Um, that's something that I would consider as well. But like I said, if you're a mostly stock configuration or you're not overweight, you can cross that one off, I think.
Yeah, I this kind of goes into the weeds a little bit, but talking about tires and going big and then not re-gearing, this affects so many things with a vehicle. And ultimately, it goes all the way back to the motor RPMs going down the road at say 55, 60 mile an hour. If you throw big tires on, keep the factory gear ratio, your engine is spinning slower at the same speed it would be on factory tires, which means water pump spinning slower, your radiator fan spinning slower, your power steering pump is spinning slower. It doesn't have the chance to cool and work as designed. Matching
Yeah.
gearing to tire size, yes, it makes power, makes your vehicle drive better, but it helps all these other systems too.
Yeah, that's a great point. Especially think about like variable intake runners too that are, I'm sure, RPM and throttle position dependent. You might be zapping 20 horsepower away on the highway because it's just not registering the RPMs that it would typically function at. So that's a great point.
I've seen
Um,
brake boosters be affected by it because you're on the throttle harder. You've got less vacuum in the intake manifold, and if you
Yeah.
happen to touch brakes on the interstate a couple times, well, now all of a sudden you're not storing idle vacuum in the booster, and when you jump on the brakes for that third time, they're hard. They don't have that assist.
Yeah, definitely. This last one, boy, I think this one should have been first for things that you need. Recovery points and basic tools. So when it comes to recovery points, man, this one people, I don't know. I don't know where the misinformation comes from, and people argue it like they're so wrong and so confident about it. You really need something structural. And, I've said this before and I'm going to keep saying it, but if your truck comes with a cast hook as a tow hook, I'm not using that to recover your vehicle. Maybe if you're off the road in a ditch and I can like statically flat tow you, possibly. But that is not rated for any sort of static loads or shock loading. There's no positive attachment point to it. It's just not a good recovery point. So if your vehicle doesn't come with a factory, ring that is hard mounted to a frame, you need to look into what you can do in order to add a recovery point. At least one, but ideally one front, one rear. Now, if you have a truck with a receiver, you can simply just grab a little D-ring shackle, slide it on in the receiver, and you're good to go. The crossovers, truthfully, I don't have a lot of guidance there. I don't know what the solutions are.
Yeah, the crumple zones on the unibody stuff really limit a good structural point at each end of the vehicle. It's almost limiting to the capabilities. You should really try to avoid being stuck and have to be recovered because of the design of that vehicle. If you're hard to recover, you should probably not be in a situation that you need recovered from.
Yeah, one of the things I actually saw this in practice, and I thought, that was really smart. Now, obviously, this isn't ideal, but on those unibody vehicles that don't have a good recovery point, I watched somebody take two large soft shackles. They were probably like 4-footers. They were very large, and they ran two through the control arms where they mount to the unibody or to the, I guess, subframe. And then those were kind of in like a triangle shape, and then they ran a tow strap through that. They may have had another shackle, I'm not sure, but basically that configuration is what they pulled the vehicle forward with. And I think that's about as good as you're going to get when it comes to recovering something that does not have a good structural recovery point from the front. Now, keep in mind, if you do that, like, yes, the lower control arms hold that vehicle up and on the road, but if you go too far out, like towards the knuckles, you're putting a ton of leverage the way you're not supposed to. You might end up totaling that vehicle, So be careful with it. Be careful with it.
There's a lot of control arms mounted to just stamped sheet metal.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely be careful with it. But if you are in that situation where you don't really anticipate that you're going to be getting stuck, but you want to be responsible and you have something that's unibody and no good recovery points, two big old soft shackles, and you'll probably get out unscathed. Probably. I don't really like soft shackles through the wheels unless it's really necessary. I think there's a lot of leverage there and a lot of stuff that can get messed up when you go through
I agree
a wheel.
with that. I think if you're doing that, you've pretty much wrote off recovering the vehicle and it being usable. Like at this point, it's just getting it out of nature. You're cleaning up pollution at that point.
Yeah, I've done it to I did it to a Hyundai Velociter in the ice before. But it was so icy. It was so icy I probably could have pushed the thing. That's a story for another day, but Aaron in the Outback Wilderness was with me, and it was chaos up in Davis during a legitimate blizzard. It was pretty fun. Yeah, so those are the things that you need. Now, if you confuse your wants and needs, You're going to add weight that you don't need. You're probably going to reduce your reliability because you're going to add more stuff. Your fuel range, your efficiency is going to go in the shitter. Your center of gravity is probably going to raise. And ultimately, you run the risk of building a truck that is a pain to drive because there comes a point where when you keep adding stuff and adding stuff and stuff, that it's just a bear and cumbersome to be in anymore. You know, it starts out, oh, I'm going to get a molly panel for the truck, and then next thing you know, you get in and you hit your head off of a 300 blackout, AR pistol that's hanging on the roof, and you got molly panels in the doors that are rattling, and it gets to be a lot. So just be mindful of that. So, what are some factory features that you want to look for?
Definitely body on frame construction.
Yeah.
I think that again, this goes into you got to get out there first. So, however, whatever you've got right now, get out there. But then when you decide you're going to keep doing this and you're going to purchase a vehicle to do it, you want a body on frame vehicle.
I agree. Definitely agree.
There are exceptions to that. I think the XJ is one of the better ones.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like other unibody things that are like, yeah, you should go buy that, and I'm kind of coming up empty.
Yeah, I think what's the Porsche everyone's doing now? It's like a Porsche SUV. Is it a Cayman?
It's a Cayman? Is it the same thing as the Volkswagen?
Like the
They call
Touareg?
it, yeah, I think
Kind of
that's what
looks like that. That one, if you can find them, people seem to love those. They have lots of power, all-wheel drive system, or it actually is it four-wheel drive or is it an all-wheel drive?
It's European, man. I'm not
Yeah.
in that world. I kind of that's their own thing. I don't know.
Yeah, but ultimately, guys, I mean, we're literally struggling to think of one
Yeah,
unibody vehicle outside of the XJ. So again, this is not saying that you can't. There are literally thousands of people that do, but we're talking about the best. And the reason being is you're going to have more ground clearance. It's going to be a more durable vehicle. It's going to have a stronger payload. It's just better suited for overland and off-roading.
absolutely. I mean, I think Aaron Justice is a prime example of somebody in a unibody vehicle that just absolutely kills it with a
Yeah.
Subaru.
Yeah.
Like guy does some amazing things in that thing. It does great. I don't know that I would choose it though, but he's done phenomenal with it. It's very
Right.
impressive.
Yeah. Now this next one, I'm expecting a little bit of flack here, because this kind of contradicts my whole deal of, run what you brung. But I think that the best overland vehicles have a two-speed, so a high-low, manually actuated transfer case. My opinion is that the modern electronic all-wheel drive system is just a giant hunk of shit, and there's no two ways around it. They're just glorified front-wheel drives that occasionally, if the stars align and God wills it, the back wheels will engage and start going. Now, some are better than others. Like Audi, for instance, Audi still has a pretty solid all-wheel drive system. Subaru, for the most part, now in their new vehicles have a pretty solid system, but I don't think that they're anywhere near what they used to be. Old Mitsubishi used to be really good, but the modern stuff is just it's just shit. There's sensors and clutches and just a
Complex.
ton of things that go wrong. And if you ever want to see what I'm talking about, go ahead and look up just whatever 2025, 2026, blah, 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 all wheel drive test. Go ahead and look at the Ford, the Nissan, the Honda. Just like wet dirt is the most unsurmountable obstacle for the majority of these things. It's again, I'm not saying you can't do it, but if you're gonna go buy something, you're not looking for an all-wheel drive vehicle.
I think that if you are in a all-wheel drive vehicle, you better have a really damn good understanding of how that system works, what modes it needs to be in, what sensors have to be there,
Yeah.
and be able to know, hey, I get in this situation, the rear is going to work. You know, if you don't understand that system, you're going to struggle.
Yeah, there's some weird ones. 2004 and maybe also 2005, Dodge made a 1500 Ram that was all-time all-wheel drive.
Yeah.
It sucked, but I mean, it's
Yeah. There were some Cherokees that were full-time like XJs
okay.
that I think were full-time all-wheel drive. I wanna say some of the old, like, S10 Blazer platform stuff
Yeah.
was were those a 241 transfer case that was full-time? Or was that the big
Mm,
K5 Blazer?
maybe. I mean, so my Yukon actually has an auto transfer case option, so I can run like a four-wheel drive auto if I wanted to. So it's still a transfer case that's not necessarily it doesn't have a center diff. And maybe that's actually a better way to put this is don't buy something with a center diff.
If you do, it has to be locking.
Yeah. Yep.
'Cause I think the way your Yukon works is it disengages the front axle until the wheel
Yeah.
speed sees slip in the rear, and then
Yeah.
it'll throw it in the front.
Yeah. It's basically just taking the place of you pressing the button for four-wheel drive.
Yeah. And
Um,
I think at that point it's too late. You've already slipped the back wheels, you've
yeah.
lost traction, so now you're asking everything out of the front, where if you just would have been prepared and locked it in before, you're gonna have more traction.
Yep.
Once you
So
slip, you're in a real bad situation.
and actually just tonight I tested it. My driveway is super long, super steep, and it's concrete, and we just got like a real thin film of ice and snow. Um, I never tested the auto, and I never anticipate myself actually using it because the last thing I want is for the ass end to be spun up to mock Jesus and then the front to just decide that it wants to join the party.
Yep.
But I figured, well, I'll try this just to see what it does. It engaged faster than I thought, but I, with confidence, will say I never anticipate myself using it again. It doesn't serve any purpose for me. Um, I think the risks are not worth the reward. I don't know how it's gonna behave if the back end's spooled up. I don't know. I don't care
So
to know.
let me ask you this. If you didn't have 10 years of wheeling under your belt and you had that, would that have done a better job using the automatic mode than somebody who doesn't know what they're doing?
That is a good point. Um, yes, and I think about maybe, like, commuting home in, like, a snowstorm perhaps, where
Like your wife,
um
you could tell her to throw that in auto four-wheel drive and she's probably pretty fine on the interstate.
yeah, no, that's actually a really good point, because that is better than just simply not using it or using it at an inappropriate time. So that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
it goes back to like we know our vehicles enough to know when we're gonna need stuff and like
yeah.
we've outgrown a system on the vehicle and just because we don't use it anymore doesn't mean that it doesn't have a use. I don't
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that because I know that I like habitually shit talk the modes, right? But a mode that really would help a lot of folks that maybe aren't super comfortable with their vehicle. A lot of the snow modes or even a sand mode, both of those are gonna modulate the throttle response that you don't gun it and just start spinning. So if you don't have a lot of skill in that area, that's a good example of a mode that is genuinely going to help you and not hurt you in those driving scenarios. So yeah, I think that's a good point. What else? What else are we looking for factory features?
you gotta have some payload capacity because you're gonna throw a bunch of crap in the back. A Blackstone weighs a good bit. Propane tank weighs a good bit.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a tent, probably a nicer tent as time goes on. You're gonna have a cooler. You're gonna overstuff that cooler with ice, adult
Yeah.
beverages. You might bring some food. Um, and you're gonna bring stuff, man. You're just gonna
Yeah.
bring so much stuff. I can't tell you how many times I've like panicked over putting stuff in my truck and never touching it at all.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, when we went to Nova Scotia, I was really concerned about weight, mainly because the distance and how much extra weight would contribute to that being not a good time. I treated that trip like I was carrying things on my back. I think that my entire loadout was 170 pounds. That
That's
didn't
pretty
in
good.
that didn't include my tool bag, I believe. I'm not positive, but I
Man,
believe
I
it
was
didn't
just getting
include the
ready
tool
to
bag.
say my tool bag weighs more than that alone.
You have one in here that I think is great in the poverty package.
The poverty package, man. So this goes back to reliability. Like, you want the manual windows, manual locks. You definitely want air conditioning and cruise control. And I think a manual transmission is superior for what we do, mainly because you don't build all the transmission heat. It's more tolerable it will tolerate abuse better than an automatic will.
Yeah.
You can overheat one and puke a bunch of fluid out of an automatic pretty quick. And a manual, you can smoke a clutch, you can glaze a clutch, but it's still gonna get you home.
So this is a funny point where so my stance is I firmly believe that the manual is stronger, more reliable, delivers more power to the ground, keeps you more in contact with the vehicle, keeps you more in tune with what the vehicle is doing.
You
However,
manage your shock loads better.
yeah, my only thing is I don't want to fuck with one. I want to sit there. I want to eat my chips. I want to bullshit on the radio. I want to shit talk the guys who aren't there in the chat.
So I do all that. And I drive a manual. Like, up your game, bro. Like, you better.
I wish I wish that my Frontier was a manual, but I'm happy that the Yukon, not that there's a 5 or 6 speed option without modification, but I'm happy that the Yukon is not. It just I know it's far less reliable, but I think for me, I don't necessarily like to have to piss with it. Um, but I fully agree that it's better, if that makes any sense. Yeah, we'll have to explore what remaining manuals there are that were made in the last 5 years because I don't think that there are many. Um, I don't. We'll have to go back to
Yeah,
the mid 2000s, which I think was like a really good time in the automotive world for trucks.
for a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah. You you get a throttle cable instead of drive-by-wire. Um, now a lot of things don't necessarily have throttle body failures. However, they do. It absolutely happens. But it's not super common, but it does happen. But the biggest problem with a drive-by-wire throttle body is the throttle response. And how many times have you dealt with that? You just like, go, please.
I think, let's see, I drove a '07 Suburban, I think it is. Don't hold me to that. But it was a drive-by-wire vehicle, and I am telling you, it was at least 2 seconds before the throttle responded, which is dangerous, in my
Absolutely.
opinion. Like, I wanna hit the gas and get out of the way of something. I wanna run from something. If there's a car sliding at me, I wanna hit the gas and go, not sit here and save the planet from emissions.
Yeah.
Like, this
Yeah.
is a serious problem that I can't believe is allowed on the roads to be that delayed in the name of
One
emission.
One of the worst ones I've actually ever dealt with was actually my Frontier. So earlier build Frontiers, I believe till 2012 or 2013, they had wide open throttle restriction, which restricted the throttle plate to something crazy like 60% until the vehicle was traveling 35 miles an hour. That is outrageous. That is completely outrageous. And the only way on the Frontier to get rid of that is to tune it away. So you're, at minimum $600 in the hole to get rid of that. Now I did, and it's a night and day thing. And if anyone is listening that has a pre 2013, don't quote me on that year, but I think it's 2013. Tune it out because it's really changes the truck. Now, other vehicles, and I hear the Toyota guys talk about these all the time, is a pedal commander or Banks pedal, whatever branded pedal controller guys want to buy. Now, you'll hear, kind of the internet knuckleheads go, "Oh, those don't do anything." Well, they're not adding power, but they are reprogramming the signal that the pedal is sending to the throttle body. Without one, a lot of factory vehicles can be really choppy at slow speeds because their goal is efficiency, not control. Your goal off road is controls. Um, and I referenced the Tacoma because that's the one I'm most familiar with, where guys seem to report that it really does do a very good job. Mm, I think it's a pretty good mod, and they're not that expensive. I don't think.
$200.
Yeah,
There's
but
not
just
too many things for $200 that's going to give you that type of control with a vehicle. It's going to make
yeah,
that big difference.
yeah. Some of them even have like a crawl mode. They have like a little dial. I have no experience with them. I'm just going off of what I've heard from other people. But just keep in mind, it does not add any power to your vehicle. It's not going to make your vehicle any faster. If it does feel faster, it is only the byproduct of opening the throttle plate faster.
The
That's
power was
all it's
always
doing.
there. If
Yes.
they were to open the throttle plate, the power was going to be there, but
Yep.
they just took it away from you. The manufacturer's like, no, you cannot do this because we want clean air, and they kept it away from you. Unlock it.
Yes.
It's free.
So we like drive by cable, but if you do have drive by wire, see if what you're looking at has the option to either tune out the pedal restrictions or if you can get a pedal commander. Some other things that we like from the factory: mass vehicle numbers from the manufacturer. Think like a fleet vehicle. Um, Man, I didn't realize how popular the GMT 800 was until I bought one. It You walk somewhere and you stub your toe on GMT 800 parts. It's
Yep.
unbelievable. I'm gonna drive one until I die, I think, actually.
Yep. Yep. It's like Crown Vics.
I mean, your only limiting factor, obviously, is the thing's two-wheel drive, but, I can tell you right now, with Expedition springs in the rear, you can run 31s, so But yeah, guys, look for something that they made a ton of. One-off years you wanna avoid if you can. And also, I brought up the Ineos Grenadier. If you're wealthy enough to buy an Ineos Grenadier and beat it up off road, you probably don't care, but just something to consider. It's not exactly going to be that easy to get parts for when you're out in the woods.
Yep. I was thinking like S10, Canyons, Rangers, F-150. Well, the F series Fords are common.
Yeah.
Look at what your contractors are driving around, or your delivery drivers.
Yep, they all
They're
have
gonna be
300,000 miles on them. What is sexy isn't necessarily the best. Like obviously, what do they call them? A bullnose F-150, right? With a 4.6. Like that's not like a sexy truck, but I'll tell you what, that'd be a damn good overland truck.
Yeah. Dirthead Dave's got Mom Spaghetti, and I believe that's a bullnose F-150. I think he put that nose on us. I don't know those Fords like that to know what noses are
Yeah,
what.
I'm thinking like 2003, whatever that shit is.
Yeah. Which we need to come back to like the mid 2000s and back and talk about that. But those F-150s we're talking about, they were V8 with a very common. They were 4.6 or 302s, or they made a kabillion of
Yeah,
them. Transmissions, same thing. They made a kabillion of them. I believe they were like the 205 transfer case, the big heavy ones. Well, Off-Road Design does doublers for them and different gear ratios, and like they're
Yeah.
almost as good as an aftermarket transfer case. And then you're throwing Dana 60 under the front and maybe under the back too. Like
Yeah.
they're floating big axles, 30 spline at minimum in those years.
There was actually a short run. This is like a total aside. But there was actually a short run of F-250s in that body style. It's super sought after, but they were really, really cool.
Yeah.
That would be a badass overland rig if you could find one.
Yeah.
But yeah, something that they made a lot of is a really good pick. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why the Tacomas, the Frontiers, the 4Runners are all popular now, is because they made a shit ton of them. They're everywhere. But you don't have to buy a Japanese midsize vehicle. I mean, they're the best, but you don't have to buy one.
Since we talked about, the mid 2000s, let's go back to that here for a second. A lot of stuff in the automotive world happened in like 2005, 2006, as far as safety and emissions and efficiency. And it forced the manufacturers into some boxes that made vehicles bigger. They had to consider aerodynamics a lot more for the efficiency numbers. So like they got these massive air dams, like big grills and stuff that closed up all the air going under a vehicle. The doors actually drop down below the frame now. You look at these older trucks, most of the time you're sitting at a light, you can see the frame underneath them. The new vehicles, you can't.
Yeah.
And they're even putting side steps on them now to block some airflow and stuff from getting under them.
Yeah.
They got bigger too because of the safety ratings. Like they had to make the vehicle bigger in order to give it space to crumple in an accident. And all of these, I say body swelling things are less desirable once you get off road.
Absolutely.
It hinders your approach, departure, breakover angles. Your like a third gen Tacoma is the same size as like a 90s OBS Chevy.
Yeah. Yeah. Think of the hood heights of a new GM truck or a new Dodge truck.
They're right here.
Yeah. Ford isn't as bad. It's not good, but it's not as bad. But my goodness, the new GM and Dodge trucks are crazy. You need almost cameras in both headlights and one in the grill just to see what's in front of you.
Yeah. You know what else they've done is they've lowered the grill into the bumper area too to get more cooling area, but they've made it a super pain in the ass to put any type of good bumper on it because the grill sits so low. The bumper is higher than the bottom of the grill.
Yep, that's one of my biggest pet peeves in new vehicles, and I actually think that's one of the reasons why new vehicles I don't really find them that attractive, and that is because there's no delineation between the bumper and the grill. It's just one big plastic front clip, and I think it looks bad. And all I can think of is if I hit a tree, I'm replacing a bumper, a fender, a grill, and a hood.
Yeah.
And a headlight, I just don't, it's not attractive to me. I think Nissan completely dropped the ball on it with their new vehicles, although people for whatever reason seem to love those little mini bumpers that just go in the middle. I like bumpers that are separate from the rest of the truck.
I'm glad you did something, but you could have done better.
Yeah. I'm just sitting here. I'm just waiting for the letdown when they show us the new Xterra, because I know I'm going to hate it. Matter of fact, actually, whenever they do release that, I'm going to do a whole episode on why I hate it, because I just know I'm going to hate it. So we're going to block out an hour. I'm going to talk about why it's stupid.
And it's probably going to be copy and paste for just about any newer vehicle produced in the last 10 to 15 years.
Yep, absolutely. I just know whatever the power plant is going to suck, and the body panels are going to be all plastic. The door will be tied into the rear quarter, and just garbage. Sad. So you bought one from the factory. It has all the things that we've talked about, or some of them, but now you want to start modifying. So if you're going to start modifying, how do we start?
You go back. Well, let's see. You get on YouTube and you find the Camo Convoy podcast and you listen to what we talk about with tires, and then you go out and buy those tires that suit you.
Yep, most definitely.
Because we really broke down tires there a couple weeks ago.
A good set of tires is going to carry you further than just about everything except for a tank of gas. Number 2 here is going to be organization. Now, this is something I consider a little bit bougie. I have a decked system, but you don't need anything like that. You need something that works for you, and that's based off of what you bring with you when you're actually on a trip. There is nothing worse than it's breakfast time and you don't know where the spatula is and you're looking under your pants, and just come up with something that works for you. And I'll tell you what looks really promising. all of these tool manufacturers are starting to make their own version of Milwaukee's pack out. And I was at Home Depot the other day and I saw something that I was like, this will probably be in the back of the Yukon at some point. And it is DeWalt's drawer system. Now they're kind of pricey, but it is like a stackable plastic and aluminum drawer that's very modular and has a pretty good depth. And man, for the SUV and crossover crowd, pretty nice.
I'm gonna have to go look at that because I haven't seen them yet.
They are really cool. I'll put a link in here. I do hope that more manufacturers pick up that modular drawer because it is sweet. Really, I definitely want one. They're expensive. I think it was like $250 per drawer. I would probably need 3 of them, but that's what I paid for a deck system. So is it really that bad?
I'm a tote person right now, and I think the only real advice I got on totes is buy one with 4 clamps or 6 clamps that go around and a gasket. It's so
Gasket?
nice to have them.
Yep.
You need a gasket. I think those Plano boxes are actually probably the best, but I don't think they have a gasket. I think the plastic is just molded really tight.
I thought I had a lid down here, but I don't. I believe the smaller ones do have a rubber gasket. But I 100% agree. A gasketed one is going to save your ass a lot, especially if you're on a long trip. It's wet and humid. You know, you wake up and your coffee's all clumped together and your bread's moldy.
You know what got me was when I didn't have a soft topper and I just had an open bed, was the dust contamination into everything.
Yeah. Yeah, storage is important, and being organized, knowing where your stuff is important. But protection is also important. And what I like to see at minimum is an oil pan and a radiator skid, especially on an IFS truck. Those are the things that you're going to smack off of rocks and off of obstacles. On a solid axle truck, I don't know that it's going to be as important, truthfully. You know,
I guess it depends on how your transfer case is built. If you got a thin aluminum case transfer case, then like, yeah, throw a skid up there. But if you're running around like an old NP 205, you're probably gonna consider that the most durable part of the vehicle.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's going to depend on your vehicle, but especially for the IFS guys, engine skid, rad skid is going to help you out a ton, and consider transmission depending on where your trans sits, or transfer.
So when you buy skids, when I was buying skids for this thing, I went looking for a while, and every skid plate had a hole directly under the oil pan to do oil changes. And this was mind-boggling to me. My gas tank skid is like this, has holes all through it. Why are we making skid plates with holes in them directly through to the thing you're protecting? It make like you're bolting weight to a vehicle for no reason. So look at that. There are things to make maintenance easier. The Fumoto valves, you can stick a finger up there through a little tiny hole and open them up and stick a drain hose on it, and it makes life 100 times easier. Just buy skids that actually protect stuff.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. Funny you mentioned that. There was one particular engine skid that I had looked at, and the hole for the oil pan was like at the front lip, which would have meant that anything that you were going to hit was just going to catch on that lip. So yeah, any bonehead can get a sheet metal brake or a press and make a skid plate. But make sure it's designed in a reasonably smart way for sure.
I have seen a skid plate where the drain plug was lower than the skid plate because it stuck out the hole. It was like a half inch below. Why? What were you doing?
I bought a skid plate for my FZ09 and it was like that. I ended up having to shave the pan and getting a flat bolt. So number 4 here. This is gonna be one that I think people are gonna like, oh, you posers. I think that you should upgrade your lights before you get lockers. Now, if you just take day trips and you don't anticipate driving at night, I guess this doesn't apply to you. But we drive at night a lot, and this time of year it gets dark basically all day. So it's dark. And I'm telling you, a decent set of lights, and when I say decent, I mean like you can buy lights from Amazon, like Ox Beam and Oxito and all that shit. It's all basically the same anymore. We'll get into that in a different episode. Um, but I'm telling you, the fatigue on you as a driver is so much less with adequate lighting. And from a safety standpoint, it really is important. And the argument that I make all the time is every public road that you're going to be driving on has been driven on at some point by a DCNR truck, which was probably an F-150 on like Goodyear Wrangler tires. So you're probably going to be okay without a locker. And if you're not, just left foot brake and make yourself a locker and drive out of it. You're going to be all right. If you get into like, you go off-roading all the time and you're trailing it, you're crawling through the rocks, sure, whatever, buy a locker. But I like lights before lockers.
Cheap lights.
Yeah.
A 20-inch Amazon light bar with a tag bracket will blow your mind if you've never driven with auxiliary lights ever before. Like,
Yeah.
I live in deer country, and every single vehicle I got has some sort of auxiliary lighting on it just so I can see deer. And actually all of them right now are tied into my high beam switch. So it's not even like I'm fumbling around trying to turn off multiple bright lights. It's all on one switch.
Yeah.
Makes it really, really nice.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Something I put in here as a quote is skill will help you pick lines, but it will not help you see further. So it doesn't matter how good you are at driving, you can't see what isn't lit up. You don't need a locker. It helps, but you don't need it. But you do need lights. So I think that that's important. Obviously, don't stay home just because you have headlights. But it is a really good first mod, and I don't want to get too far into lights right now because we do have that as a whole episode planned. We're going to dive into what we believe about off-road lighting and why we are both in agreement that you don't have to go out and spend $7,000 on an LP6 and LP9 setup for your truck.
Absolutely. I ran a $41 tuning light bar for 8 years, and I only took off because I had some extra money burning a hole in my pocket. Said, yeah, I'm buy these aux beams, and I don't know that they're even any better.
What do you think are the most overlooked mods when you want to build the best version of your Overlander?
This is suspension tuning. People are just buying stuff that Shock Surplus says you need. They're not looking at everything and tuning for their use.
Definitely.
They don't see the whole package deal with it. It's just suspension is one of those things where everything's got to complement each other. Like, yeah, you can buy a shock, but it better match the spring and it better match the bushings that are in there. And oh, by the way, your track bar now needs adjusted because you're 2 inches higher and the angle's not right. And like it all snowballs. So
Yeah.
to do your suspension right is going to be the biggest change you could possibly make to a vehicle to make your life better.
Yep, definitely. Another one that I think people really, really forget about is differential breathers, especially guys that have brand new trucks. For whatever reason, they buy a brand new truck and I guess in their head, they're so excited about it. This thing is trail rated or trail ready or a pro, whatever. Extend your differential breathers. Like that might actually be the mod you do before tires. It's so easy. It is so cheap, and it was going to save you a lot of money, especially if you're going to have that vehicle for more than whatever your lease is.
Yep. And put a P-trap in it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Also, if you have a breather fail, this is a big issue in the Frontier world. Frontier uses a pressure cap breather, so it fails closed and opens when there's pressure. Just a terrible design. And they corrode and they pack with mud. And guess where that pressure goes? Out your seals. Now, it's not necessarily a death sentence. However, over time it is. Those seals will blow apart. They'll blow out. they'll stretch, they'll swell. And now you're doing seals on a C200K or an M226, and both of those jobs suck because they require a press and grinders to cut off the retaining ring, and it blows. So it's also a really expensive bearing because you have to replace the bearing as well because you have to cut the bearing off to get to the seal. It sucks. So just do the breathers.
Do the breathers.
Yeah. I'm going to just double down on do the breathers. Matter of fact, we actually talked about that in our Christmas shopping episode.
Yep.
Buy breathers. You're going to really thank yourself for sure. Next year, simple driver skill and seat time. If it's a Saturday and you don't have anything going on, drive up into the woods, set your camera up, take some cool shots of your rig, find a rut, and just practice driving over stuff. Doesn't have to be hard. Just pick lines, pick hard lines, pick lines you don't think you're going to make, and just practice. The more time that you're out there, the more trips you take, the more comfortable you're going to be, and you're going to understand. And even now, I'm not I don't think that there's ever mastery of a vehicle. I'm still learning. The more seat time you get, the better you're going to be. How about what do you think about charging systems? Initially, when I put this in here, I was talking about charging your devices, but I got to thinking about it. What do you think about alternators as a potential modification?
I think that if you're getting into needing a bigger alternator, you're already very deep into the overlanding world and you are already doing your homework as to what's happening. Like you're experiencing a problem.
Yeah.
I think most vehicles are going to be fine with the factory alternator, but I also think that maybe they're not okay with the factory battery. Like I think adding a little extra battery isn't a bad thing, just for the capacity.
Yeah.
If you lose an alternator, having capacity in your battery is time you can drive that could possibly get you off the trail. Could be life-threatening if it's too small,
Yeah.
could get you stuck.
Yeah. It might only be 5 minutes, but guess what? 5 minutes at 50 miles an hour is a lot better than walking or pushing.
Yeah. I think that if you're going to do anything to your charging system, we're putting all these doodads on our vehicles. We're not upgrading the cables the way that we should. And that would be the upgrade. That's where you spend your money. Bigger ground cable to the battery, good cable to the starter, good one from the alternator, and then all of your common ground points along a vehicle. And you'll find them. If you look at a wiring diagram, you'll find them. Where it's like your kick panel and the cab, you want to make sure your grounds are clean. There's stuff back on the frame that stuff grounds to. Like those cables need to be bigger than what they are from the factory when you start adding stuff.
Yep, that's a good point. The last one I want to talk about here is a good mount for your devices. It sounds not that important, but I can tell you from experience that a shitty mount will drive you crazy, especially if you are the one who is responsible for providing the turn-by-turn of the trip. You don't want to be fumbling with your phone or an iPad. Get something that's quality, that has a nice positive attachment for a phone or a tablet, and you're gonna thank yourself. That's a cheap mod that I think it's gonna go a long way. I've had a lot of luck with quad lock. Um, Only downside to the quad lock case that I've found, this is after 2 years, but it has started to separate here. I haven't reached out to them. I'm probably going to, but as far as the way that their cases attach, I like quad lock. Downside is it's expensive for no reason.
So I'm running a cheaper Amazon thing, and I think it's actually a name brand, but it's on Amazon. I don't know the actual brand, but it's got a screw. It's like a clamp that tightens over your phone.
Okay.
And any case, like it's kind of more universal, but I throw the phone in it, half quarter turn, something like that, and it's tight. It holds it really good. I've been happy with it.
Nice. Next thing we're going to talk about is just some lessons that we learned from the road. So over the course of camo and the trips that we've taken and outside of camo, even what we've learned in relation to what makes something a good overlander or what makes the best overlander. So you're not going to like it, but simple builds fail a lot less than complex builds. There are some examples in camo of no builds. I mean, bone stock, and they just work. There's a bone stock Granny Gold Sequoia. It's been on the same tires, I think, for at least, I don't know, 3 years now.
P-Series tires.
P-Series
Oh,
tires.
hold on. I think he was going to kill me last time. They might be LTs, but they're still.
It got Kevlar.
Yeah. They're a pretty light duty tire.
Yeah, basically an all terrain. No, I'm sorry, an all season.
All season.
Tire.
Yep.
But he airs it down, and he has gone everywhere. Vermont, Nova Scotia. I think he came to Kentucky once. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he was in Kentucky with us in the fall and killed it.
Yeah, I mean,
if you keep an eye back here, there's a picture of him three-wheeling.
It just goes to show, like, the only mods, and it's crazy. Actually, he's the only one that actually follows our advice because
he does a really good job of it.
Yeah, outside of tires, which I would suggest different tires, but he has an engine skid, and he had MBM Fab manufacture him a front recovery system that works with his factory bumpers. So he doesn't have big off-road bumpers, but he has a frame-mounted front recovery point. I think 2, actually. I think he did maybe get sliders made as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Pretty sure Max got them.
Yeah. But for all intents and purposes, otherwise, this thing is bone stock. It's never broken, and he has done some very difficult things without issue. Obviously, it's not as fun to leave them mostly stock, but it does a pretty darn good job. Yeah, I can. I'll put a picture of it up of it.
I'll
of it
send it to
you. Either that, or I'll put both of them up. That one, and then the one of him basically on its side in the ditch in Vermont.
Yeah.
But there's lots of scenarios like that where something that is a no build does a really good job. Look at the stock Bronco that was one of 10 full-size vehicles or 12 full-size vehicles that finished the 24 Hours of Kentucky, bone stock. Max has a first-gen Kia Sportage. I think it's got a little bit bigger tires, maybe a mild lift, I'm not sure. But basically, it's a stock everything else. They don't break. The overwhelming majority of breakdowns that we have experienced on the trail have been a result of maintenance failures, not from crashes and not from trail damage. So as long as you bring out something that is reliable, you're going to be okay and you're going to have a good time. A lot of these maintenance failures are common for that specific vehicle too. So you need to be cognizant of what the common failure points of your vehicle are. So I brought up the heater core ports on Nissans and Toyotas. Just replace them ahead of time so they don't break on you. Ball joints, lowers on Toyotas, replace them or bring spares because you know it's a problem. And the other thing that fails are electronics. So, gosh, think about how many Nissans and Toyotas won't go into 4-wheel drive on our trips because wheel speed sensors. It's like one every trip.
Yeah.
If that's not enough reason to want a manual transfer case, I don't know what to tell you. Mine is not. I have a auto electronic transfer case. When it's functioning, it's really great. But when it's not functioning, you're sunk. You don't have an option. You don't have 4-wheel drive. So if you go through, it could be tall weeds that grab a wheel speed sensor wire and break it. Now you don't have 4-wheel drive until you get out and fix it. Those are things that I think you should be considering in your head when you're thinking about what the best overland vehicle is.
You also need to think about the aftermarket support because a lot of these vehicles, look at Max. He's got this first gen Kia he's the only person I know out there wheeling a first-gen Kia. Now, I know there are others, but he's struggling to find suspension parts that are better than factory that he can just upgrade to, just a minor upgrade. You know, a lot of these aftermarket companies, too, will design products to help fix some of these problem maintenance issues. Like, there are lower control arms for the Toyotas that eliminate the lower ball joint and go to a Heim. Now, that's debatable if it's better, but it's not going to fall apart and fail catastrophically.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
You know, it's important that you have good parts availability and aftermarket support for whatever you get, and the maintenance is kept up.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, anything else to add for our lessons learned or anything about the best overlander before we move on to Q&A?
You know, I think the best overlander too comes down to a lot of driving skill. You can take somebody that's got a lot of experience and take a stock vehicle a lot farther than somebody with a really nice build that doesn't know what they're doing.
Yep. Absolutely.
So if you want to improve your overlanding, learn how to drive.
Yeah. Nope, I agree 100%. If you haven't already, hop in, let us know what your thoughts are on the best overlander, either from the factory or the best overland build. Or if you want to brag up your overland build because you think it's the best, let us know. Matter of fact, I'm going to do this on the spot, but just start sending me your overland builds, and we will decide which one we think is the best based upon the criteria that we talked about. And I don't know, we'll send you something cool. Ideally, you're a stranger and not one of our regulars. I love you guys, but like, I'm tired of sending you free shit. I mean, you can still send it to me, but like, I'm just gonna see it next week. So. All right. Let's get into Q&A.
Your lack of pinstripes don't lie, and neither do we. Where your feelings need skid plates, this is the Camo Convoy. Q&A.
What do we got, Aaron?
Snorkels and diff breathers. The extensions are good idea, but what else limits water crossings? I think that there's a big misconception that snorkels are specifically for water crossings, and that's not always the case. But a lot of people throw a snorkel on and think that they can just go play submarine. I mean, we've had that happen. We've got t-shirts. So
yeah.
What else would you do to make a vehicle safe to go through deep water or extended water crossings? Like, what else should you be concerned about besides the breathers?
Well, I'll tell you, your alternator is a major concern. The alternator, I don't know if you know this or not, but like, it needs to be able to spin and generate electricity, and it doesn't do a very good job of that when it's submerged or packed full of mud. The problem is, there's not really a good solution to prevent the alternator from being affected from being submerged in water. I have always heard and actually done, if you swamp your alternator, or you spent a prolonged amount of time in the water, to just go ahead and start dousing that thing in WD-40. Truthfully, I don't even know if that's the best practice, but I've done it, and I haven't killed one. So I'm just going to pretend like it's a good solution. Someone can tell me I'm an idiot. That's fine.
I don't like it because it attracts dust, and you're basically going to make grinding compound on the brushes and wear them out.
Yeah, I don't know.
You're going to close up the ventilation to it eventually. It's one of those things, man, where it's a maintenance item. Yeah, you're in water. If you're going to douse it in WD-40 afterward, it's not a bad idea, but know that causes issues too that you have to do maintenance, keep it happy. So
yeah, I don't know what the best course of. It's one of those deals where I think you just said it best. It becomes a maintenance item as soon as you start putting it underwater.
Yep.
One thing that I do, I know that this is probably a no-no but I do it. I spray my alternators. I mean, not when it's running, but like I wash them out.
Yeah, I don't take a power washer to my engine bay. It's garden hose for the most part, and some
Yeah.
scrub brusher. And super clean. You got to watch the concentration of super clean and how hot the motor is. I have found that anything above 110 degrees will, and you throw super clean on it, it will turn to white powder. Anything aluminum will corrode. Like you want an engine to be cold when you throw a degreaser on it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I actually did that to my timing cover a few years ago. And it still looks like shit. Yep.
I discovered that with my sonic cleaner and carburetors because I was like, yeah, I'm going to make it hot, and I threw carburetors in there, and I was using simple green crystal, which is supposed to be safe for aluminum, and pulled them out, hosed them off, set them on the workbench, ate lunch, came out to a pile of white powder. I was like, what is this? Ruined the
Ugh.
carburetor. What else? There's a lot of electronic stuff too. Your plugs and stuff, and I don't know whether packing them full of dielectric grease is the right answer.
I mean, so I have, but not because I went through to do it. It was more so like, okay, I've replaced this sensor or I've unplugged this for whatever reason. The next time I plug it in, I'm putting dielectric grease around it and installing it. Uh, I don't know. It's one of those deals where at the end of the day, you're operating an engine that needs fuel, air, and spark in order to operate, and you are trying to do that underwater. So
Yeah.
it, I think also like some point of clarity of the depth and like affording depth. If you're like under headlight level, and you're continuing moving, that's a big point.
Yeah.
Continuing moving, you're gonna be okay in most everything, probably. As soon as you stop, you're not okay. Uh, and when you go deeper than that, you're really just taking fate into your own hands. There's so much, especially in new vehicles. Uh, I don't know. I wouldn't do it, honestly. Now
Yeah.
obviously, top of tire, top of fender, whatever, you go through there all day, but I'm talking like top of the windshield, you're relying on your snorkel to bring air in. Uh, I'm not fording water like that in a new vehicle. It's just too much shit to worry about.
Yeah, I think a lot of people really underestimate how easy it is to float a vehicle. Once you get a vehicle down in some deeper water, you lose a lot of corner weights and you don't have the traction. It's it's really easy to lose your vehicle in some moving water. Not
Yeah,
a lot of.
definitely. Well, wanna get into our blind questions?
Yeah.
All right, hit me.
Now, since you've gone to Disney, I want to know, would you rather go to Disney for a week or would you rather take a trip out to Moab for a week? Because we had a
Hmm.
conversation in Discord today where Andrew was saying it cost him $3,500 to go do a trip out in Moab for, I think it was about a week. And I imagine for one person at Disney, that's probably on par, maybe a little less. So,
So, am I solo or am I with the family?
hit me both ways because I think
So
it's going to be different for sure.
so so and Moab specifically. So
Yeah, I was saying Moab because that was the conversation, but I was I guess we could say like a bigger trip, like you're going to go out to Telluride and run, was it Black Bear Pass, or
yeah. So if
or your Canada trip, I think was probably on par.
I would choose. I'm gonna say with the family. So that's 4 kids and the wife, and my dog is not coming. Uh, I would choose, and this is for me. I would choose a trip. And that trip would have to be very specific as a big trip. So it would be probably something into Vermont, New Hampshire, like Green and White Mountain area. I think would be really cool with the family. My pipe dream that I'm really trying to make work for 2 years from now is Alaska and the Dalton Highway. Uh, Unlikely, but I'm working on it. The problem is a trip like that is gonna probably end up being more than what I paid for Disney. Um,
Yeah.
because Disney, I can go for a week and be really happy. I've done everything that I wanted to do. A week to go on a big trip like that is like nonstop, no rest. You're not stopping to enjoy anything. You're just driving. And
I think that's
if I'm
I think
solo,
that's
that
really
might
the
be okay.
question. Like, there's a big logistic difference. Like Disney, the logistics are figured out, but when you're doing
Yeah.
one of these big trips, it's like it's your job to figure out the logistics of it.
Yeah. It would be I mean, my dream is to take the family, everybody on a big trip like that. I just haven't had not an infant for 5 years now, so
Yeah, yeah.
but it's coming. Um, yeah, I think now if it's solo, I'm taking the
Take the
trip.
trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Take
yeah.
I can take
Uh,
care of myself very easily. I've got a very low standard of living. I can go for a couple days without warm
yeah.
meal and shower and stuff. Like I can survive. I can have an amazing trip solo. You
Dude,
start adding other people in, the quality of living like goes up, and that
li
complicates things.
listen, I made it across the country and back on my motorcycle with $800 to my name.
I
So
wish I would have known you then, because that sounds amazing. You would have done that trip solo.
no, I think the best part about that trip is that I didn't know anything about anything. I just went left on the map. You
Sounds
know
so good.
you know what the craziest part is? I actually drove the what do they call that? The $1,000,000 highway? Like, past the entrance to Engineer Pass on my motorcycle. I made it the whole way up before you get to, Silverton on the other side, and I was like, well, I don't think I wanna go north anymore. I gotta get to my cousin's house in Kremling. I'm gonna turn around." I didn't even know I didn't even know where I was. I mean, I use paper maps the majority of the time. I just looked my compass and I was like, "Well, I wanna be going west today," and that's what I did. It was really freaking fun, man. I don't think realistically in my life I will ever experience like, that again. I'll always have somebody with me or somebody
Yeah,
to, which is great for other reasons, but I'm happy that I was able to experience quite literally just going.
yeah, yeah. I
Uh,
enjoy solo trips for an entirely different reason than bringing the kids,
yeah,
but I enjoy the kids too.
yeah. So yeah, what do you think? You doing? It just depends on the time frame. Let's say a week. Are you
Yeah.
taking a? Yeah,
Like I've wanted to get out to Moab since I was in high school, and I've just not had the opportunity to do it without like major financial implications. Um,
yeah,
so that's bucket list. So any opportunity I got to check off a bucket list, that's what I'm gonna do.
yeah,
Um, Disney's not on my bucket list.
yeah.
Like it's a want to do. I'd like to experience Disney, but if I don't, then I'm okay with that.
Well, definitely. Honestly, like my answer would always be the big trip. Um, but I'm just thinking of like time. Like in my head, the question was, you have the same amount of time.
Yeah.
Uh, and for me to do Moab the way I would want to do a trip to Moab, I would want,
You want your own vehicle and
well,
your
oh,
own
most
route.
definitely.
Like
I,
like that was the thing we're trying to figure out now is like I want to go out to Moab. My wife wants to go. We got 2 kids. She's like, let's just fly out there and whatever like the closest airport is. I think it's still like 6 hours away,
yeah,
something, and then rent a Jeep in Moab and run around for a week. And it's like, yeah, that's
not,
cool.
it's not the same,
But I have zero desire to do it. Like it's not my vehicle, it's not my build, it's not
dude.
my
I,
stuff. Like I
I,
just zero
I,
desire to run a vehicle and go to Moab. Like
I
I have to
understand.
do it mine.
Yes, dude. Yes, to me, and like women will never understand this, but that would be the same thing as if I also didn't bring my wife and kids and rented a wife and kids. Like, It's
Yes.
it's totally different, and it would be almost not fun to do it that way.
Yeah, I don't think I'd enjoy myself at all. It just, I it would feel like something was missing the entire time.
Yeah, like, imagine, like, it would be so not cool to put, like, a picture on the wall of, like, you next to this, like, clapped out bone stock Wrangler, and someone's like, "Oh, is that your Jeep?" "No, I rented it."
So, like, I want to put a picture over here on the wall of this truck at top of the world.
Yeah.
A rental Jeep. I get in a JK Unlimited with my family and I park it up there like, it's a picture. I was
Ooh.
there. Ooh, big deal,
Yep,
you know?
yep, dude,
I want my own thing, man.
100% agree, definitely.
There's a pride in as much work as I mean, I'm looking at pistons right now. Like, to be able to put this back together and go out there and do that, like, there's a lot of pride that
Yeah.
I feel by being able to accomplish stuff with as much as I've touched in this thing.
Yep, 100% agree. Alright, I got one for you, and,
Okay.
it's what our episode was. So what is the best factory overlander?
Man, it's really hard. It's really hard to say anything else but the Bronco right now. I think that's probably the best factory overlander. Um, 5th gen Forerunner is in there. I can't say anything with the Jeeps. I, I I I think the Jeeps are more of an off-roader that can overland
Yeah,
and not so much overland based.
yeah,
I mean, the Tacomas and Frontiers are all going to be decent, but it's probably gonna be a Bronco, man.
yeah. I like that. I like that. I'm, uh I'm gonna go with, like, a 70 series Land Cruiser, speaking on a global platform.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I was thinking like newer vehicles, like what was on the lot right now. You're talking overall.
yeah, I'm going anytime.
Probably like an 80 series Land Cruiser.
Yeah, another high performer for me was like a newer diesel Hilux. I think is like a crazy good uh option. Um,
Yeah,
but as far as something new, I think you're spot on with the Bronco. I mean, they have their quirks, but they check all the boxes. I think for overlanding. Uh, the Ranger Raptors are pretty sweet too.
yeah, that's an honorable mention. I I believe it'll make a really, really good overland vehicle, but I don't think that was Ford's intention when they built it.
Right, I
I think
agree.
their intention was desert blasting and like go back to the bar when you're done and then hit the hotel. Like
Yeah. The what's the heavy duty Ranger that's a global platform? What do they call
Super
that?
Duty,
Super Duty Ranger. That is a pretty sweet
that's an
version
overlander.
of an overlander, big time.
Yep.
Uh, I wish we had a lot of those vehicles because the majority of the things I'm thinking about are not U.S. domestic
Yeah.
vehicles. But you know what? That speaks to the fact that we didn't need them. All those other global platforms were like literally needed. Like they needed the other ones over for like regime changes overseas. Like that was built into the design.
Yeah.
You know, we have pavement and cities and plumbing, so we didn't need a diesel truck that got 35 miles to the gallon and had 500 wheel torque. You know, it would have been
Yep.
sweet, but we weren't putting anti-aircraft guns in the bed. Hit him with the tech tip.
Women may not find us handsome, but damn it, do they find us handy. It's time for a Camo Convoy Tech Tip.
The tech tip this week. I was in the Nissan Frontier pages group the other day and somebody brought up wheel spacers. And I think you and I have the same opinion, but a little different about them. And I think these are one of those things that are commonly misused or misinterpreted and could potentially be dangerous, although I don't know of any failures. Have you ever witnessed failures from wheel spacers?
I've only seen one wheel spacer failure, and it was on a second gen Dodge that was like it was not treated well. So I have not personally witnessed one. I've seen, people talk about it and this and that, but I have not actually seen one outside of that Dodge.
I can't even think of like one on the on any of the off-road groups or anything that like was a, how do I want to say it? It wasn't like a intentional misuse failure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like with Vin Diesel, he's going to break a wheel spacer. But like the average guy out running around, I don't know that they are, you know? So anyway, there's two different kinds. You have the ones that go right over the studs. It's like a plate. You stay away from that. Those are dangerous. We don't run that.
Right.
The ones that have the studs, I feel like they need to be used for a very specific purpose, and that is to fix your width. As in, you have an older Toyota and you want to put newer Toyota wheels on, the back spacing is an inch different. And
Yeah.
if you put the newer wheels on, like I have 3rd gen off-road wheels and I put them on my truck and my tire is about a half inch from hitting the spring. It's really, really close.
Yeah.
So I can throw on a 1.25 inch spacer and I put my wheel exactly back to where stock is.
Yeah. I like that.
And that doesn't add any additional load to the bearings. It actually reduces it by putting that spacer on. Now, if I put like spacers on the wheels I'm currently running, now I get into clearance issues. I'm getting into wear on the bearings, extra leverage on things. Scrub radius is worse. Like it compounds a lot of things that are bad for your vehicle. So how you use a wheel spacer is important.
Yeah. Definitely. I think that when folks do it just for looks, you run the potential of issues. And I know there was somebody who was talking about it in relation to the Titan swap. So real quick, Titan swap, that references Nissan Frontier. What you do is you take aftermarket upper and lower control arms that are designed for a Nissan Titan. You actually don't need aftermarket lower. You just need aftermarket upper. But essentially, it bolts right on, and now you're 3 inches wider in the front per side. In doing so, think of triangles, right? So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. C squared becomes your travel, right? It's longer, right? So now you have essentially a bolt-on factory long travel kit. The only things that you need to source are a proper coilover. You're looking for about 18.5 inches of extended length. You need the Titan tie rods and some extended brake lines. You also have the option to swap in a M205 front differential from a Nissan Titan. It bolts right in, and you can run bolt-in Titan CVs right into your Frontier hubs. They bolt right up. It's about as simple as it gets. If you don't want to swap diffs, but you still want a Titan swap, you can keep your factory R180 and you can run, it's like a Q56, I think, or something like that, Infinity CV, and those are Titan width, but they run an R180. They go right in. So that's Titan swap. The problem that a lot of guys like to solve is their front end is poked out, 6 inches of total extra width, 3 inches per side, but the back doesn't change. There's nothing to do in the rear in a Titan swap. A lot of guys say, well, I need my wheels to match. They buy a 2-inch or a 2.5. So I've seen guys use a 3-inch wheel spacer. Here's the problem. You can run a 35-inch tire with no spacer, and at full bump, it will tuck inside of the bed sides, and it will just kiss the frame rail on a 35 at full bump. If you choose to use spacers in the rear, now you got to cut your bed sides to pieces to clear yourself at full bump. Now, there's actually some benefits to not running the spacers. It's not really that noticeable, but its speed, it's actually a little bit more stable. There's some aerodynamics that go into play where the back tires actually sink into the slipstream that's created by the front tires. So your back tires are actually drafting your front tires. It's one of the reasons outside of the travel and the logistics of doing it that you'll see a pre-runner that has that stance that they just don't correct for because they don't need to. There are some instances where that staggered stance feels a little bit funny. You just have to understand what's going on, and that's like a real rutted trail. You learn where your back tires are. So wrapping that up for that particular application, I'm very much on the team of not using the wheel spacers on a Titan swap for the rear. There's no
I agree.
penalty. There's no penalty for doing it outside of you got to cut your bedsides up, which to me is a pretty shitty penalty. So
You're putting a lot more leverage on your axle as well. I'm assuming those are semi-float since the press-on bearing.
yeah,
So-
so they're actually they don't even have a C clip, so it's a Dana
Yep.
44. So that the M226 M226 is in the Pro 4X. The C200K is similar, but it's just 4 studs that bolts into the outer housing, and that's it.
Mine's the exact same way.
Yeah, so that's a lot to add
That's a lot.
3 inches of spacer on that particular design.
This goes into one of those things too of like, if you do start running those spacers, maybe start thinking about the limitations that they create. Like, that's something that I think is more for looks than performance. So,
Yeah,
maybe don't be jumping if you've got those big spacers.
yeah.
Something we talked about on the radio on one of the trips was how having the wider front end, you're able to drop it off the road and like catch a curb and keep the back end up on the road. And like thinking about that is awesome. Like,
Yeah.
I really like that.
It was a big help in the hitting 24-hour in a lot of gravel sections.
Yeah.
I think like my truck is obviously a little heavier than I would like it to be, but as far as handling goes, I can point and shoot that truck and it'll go exactly where I want it to. The suspension is pretty dialed in, and I don't know, something about that stagger is magical on that particular setup. So I like it. So why don't we get into the most fun part of the show? Hopefully, hopefully this fella's waiting. So I'm gonna go ahead and play the video that was submitted. That was the winner, and this is Mr. Benton. He did this on a snowy day in Mexico. But congratulations, sir. We will get with you, and we're going to get you some cool stuff. We'll get you a cool care package, and we'll hook you up.
Yeah.
So let's see. What do we have coming up? You are going to be getting your knuckles all busted up on that motor. Hopefully, by the time I publish this, you'll have some cool stuff going on live.
Yep. I'm hoping to have this tour park tomorrow.
Awesome. I might get this edited. We'll see. I'm feeling a little bit froggy. But as always, guys, we appreciate you listening. Please follow us on our socials. We got Facebook, Instagram, MySpace. You know where to find us. Yeah, YouTube, Pornhub. No, we're not there.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Got a motor to fund those, so send in your request.
Yes. Yeah. PPV. Let's go. Merry Christmas, guys. As always, thank you so much for listening. Please hit us up in the comments. Let us know what is the best Overlander. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. See ya.